Okay, so I will start with data types. Okay, so for the data types, now they are, as we said earlier, data is the main thing for this course, right, in machine learning or data mining. So we need to understand further about the data. Like when you work in database, right? So you had to understand, let's say, the data types. You have string, you have varchar, right? You have char, you have date time, integer, float, decimal, money, I don't know, currency, and so on. So something similar here we need to understand, but further we need to look to the nature of the variable. Okay, if it's a string, for example, like text, is not enough to say this is string. In other words, we say text. Okay, it's not enough. We need to understand whether, for example, there's a nature of order inside the text or not. For example, if I say gender, gender has text, male and female. Does these values represent or has nature of order? Can I say male proceed after female, or who has more preferences, male or female? So I need to understand if there's a nature of order, for example, for text attribute. Even if it's value numbers, we need to understand also whether it has, it's called interval or ratio, like it has meaning for 0, or it doesn't have meaning for 0, real meaning, I mean. We call it absolute 0. So as you see, you need to inspect your variables even further. This is all under data understanding. Huh? So now, let's say we assume we know the problem, and then inside data understanding, you need to inspect what type of variables you have, what these variables are at the first place, what type of they, okay? Are they text? Okay, if they text, do they preserve nature of order? Like level of education, if we say person has high school or diploma, diploma is higher, right? Then degree is higher. But if we talk about gender, can we assume male is higher and so on? Of course not, but just I'm giving you the sense of understanding. So we're gonna talk about this under data understanding. Okay. So data, I think all of you understand, but it's good to understand just the keyword, the jargon that we call them. So for example, these are called attributes, features, sometimes we call them features, attributes, okay? So all referring to the same thing. Okay, for these ones are objects. If I say object, doesn't mean if you know OOP, okay, or I mean like programming language, I'm not talking about that object where you initiate object from the class, right? But here object means a record. So if I say record or object or data points, what else we say? Anything of these terms refer to the same thing. So here, how many objects I have? I have 10 objects, 10 records, 10 data points, 10 rows, okay? So all of them refer to the same thing, okay? Now, the general types of data that we may have, they are divided into these 4. By the way, if you have friends from FBF or social science, they may know about this as well, because they also conduct data analysis, right? So this is not only solely for machine learning, but these concepts are also under data analysis, because machine learning, it's not purely new science or new field comes up. Okay? Actually, it has interaction with data analysis as well. So we have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay, so what is nominal? Nominal is a variable that represents categories, or in other words, text, or you have a string, like if you like to link back to your knowledge in programming language. So this is string, okay? Categories with no specific order or ranking. Like, for example, if you take gender, you inspect your column has male and female, okay? Do they have any preferences? Which one is more important or has more weight than the other? No. Your friend is laughing, I don't know why. Maybe it has, but again, gender has no preference. So in this case, this is categories. It's string, has text, plus has no nature of order. Then we call this nominal variable. Okay, nominal variable. Another example, color. Let's say if I ask you about your favorite color. So I have one column, one attribute, one feature inside the data set says the favorite color. So what type of this? This is string, categories, right? Does it have nature of order? If I say red, has preferences over green, over blue? No, right? There is no nature of order unless your problem says no, it has. So this is why you need to go back to business understanding. Understand maybe these colors has something, okay? Okay, like the level of danger. Maybe those colors represent the level of danger. So you have nature of order there. Okay, but generally speaking, if we're talking about colors, there is no preferences. Maybe preferences to each one of us, which one we like more. But I'm talking about the whole attribute altogether. After I collected all your favorite color, so if I need to put a nice data type for this column, it is just nominal because it's categories, text, string, yet it has no nature of order. I cannot say red, or maybe your friend here, his favorite color is red, is more, has more preferences than your friend's favorite color is blue, and so on. Clear? Another example is country, like whether it's USA, UK, Malaysia, whatever. So there's no nature of order. Then in this case, this is nominal. Like if I'm asking you where you come from, then I have one column for all of you. Then also it has no nature of order. This is nominal. Okay? By the way, you can remember nominal like normal, something normal, just normal data, where it has no nature of order. The second type is ordinal. So ordinal, also you can see the word has the word order, ordinal. So it's still categories, same like nominal, but with a specific order or ranking. So now ranking has come into the place. It's categories, string, but earlier in nominal, we had no nature of order. Okay, now if we observe that this column, this feature, has nature of order, now we call it ordinal. It's categories plus has nature of order. Like, for example, if we ask you about the level of satisfaction, yes. Sorry? What's happened to MS Team? I think I didn't share, right? Did I share the screen? No, I didn't share. Too bad. Okay, thank you for notifying me at least. Okay, let's just go very fast. You can still listen to my voice for those who are attending, but now at least you have slides on your side, you can see. Okay, so for nominal, where we have text, categories, so if I say categories or set or text, same. There's no difference, okay? At least when I'm talking about the data type for my features, okay? So sometimes I use different words, but I'm referring to the same thing. So categories or text, okay? Or if I say string, if you like, again, to link back with your experience with programming languages. But the only thing, the difference between nominal and next one is ordinal, whether you have nature of ranking, order, or you don't have. Okay, ordinal as an example, for example, if I ask you about level of satisfaction. Level of satisfaction is text, right? Categories. So I have one category for very satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, very dissatisfied, and so on. But do they have nature of order? Yes, right? Let's say this is the worst. Then this is slightly worse. Now this is good. This is better, right? So they have nature of order. I can put them in order. Then I call this one ordinal, okay? So evaluate a respondent attitude towards the subject by using a set of ordered responses like this one. And one more thing interesting, so later you can differentiate between nominal, ordinal, and the next types, which are interval and ratio. These values cannot quantify the exact difference between each opinion. So for example, you cannot say there's exact difference or amount of difference between very satisfied and satisfied, or between dissatisfied and very dissatisfied, not necessarily. Again, these are just text categories, okay? We cannot quantify, say, exactly how much the difference between each one of these. Is it like we have 3 differences, units, between satisfied and dissatisfied, another 3 differences of unit? We cannot say like this. Interval is the next type. Variables that have a numerical scale. That means they are numbers, values, okay? They are real values, real numbers. with equal interval, but no true 0 point. What does that mean? Firstly, they are quantitative, means they are numbers. Like, for example, if I ask you about here, what example we have, like temperature in Celsius. Okay, if I ask you what is the current temperature room in Celsius, okay, so in Celsius, because depends also the type of temperature scale that you are using. So for Celsius and Fahrenheit, they are under interval. So they are numbers, right? You're going to say the current temperature is 35 Celsius. They are not categories. They are numbers, right? And with equal interval. So that means the difference between 35 Celsius and 36 Celsius is same difference as between 36 and 37. There's equal interval between them. Okay? Clear, everyone knows that, right? When we talk about numbers like Celsius, when we have increment in number, that means we have difference in 1 unit, let's say of Fahrenheit, or 1 unit of Celsius when we move from 35 to 36 or 36 to 37. So the interval there is equal. You cannot tell me there's 2 Celsius or unit of differences between 35 and 36 and 10 units of differences between 36 and 37. That means there is no equal between the intervals, but no, for intervals, the difference is equal. And they have no true 0 point. What does it mean there is no 0 point? True 0 point. Like, for example, if I say the direction, if I'm talking about the compass, okay, the compass. What does it mean if I tell you the compass direction degree is 0? What does it mean? Doesn't mean true 0. That means I tell you what do you mean by 0? There is no direction. No more direction now in place with no direction. 0 means north, right? We are referring to the north. So in this case, yes, the value is 0, but it's not true 0. It doesn't mean we have no direction anymore. Now we are lost because now the degree of the compass degree is 0, right? Got it? But on the other hand, if you take age and I say the age of the person is 0, you're going to laugh immediately, right? How can I say such person, his age is 0? Why? Because 0 preserve a real value, true 0. That means the person doesn't exist, right? But in direction, like compass, cannot say that. 0 means north, but it doesn't mean true 0. That means no direction at all. Now we lost. No. But for example, age has true 0 point or absolute 0. We call it also absolute 0. Okay? So now age is not under interval. We're going to discuss about age for the next data type. But you got the point? So interval is numbers, quantitative, we call it quantitative, is numbers. They preserve equal differences or interval between their values, okay? But they don't have true 0. That means they don't preserve true meaning for 0 value, like compass. And same for temperature in Celsius. Why? Because if you don't know, also I didn't know before. So this is why you see how data understanding is important, to understand what data types you have, and you sit down and understand all these things. Okay, why it's temperature in Celsius is interval? Because when you say 0, the current temperature is 0, doesn't mean the molecule in the space has stopped moving. No, they can still move. So, right, if you have true 0, that means everything frozen. Nothing can move at all. The molecule will stop movement. But when you have 0 degree, no molecules are still moving, right? Like if you are in some country where they have 0, you can still walk, right? The life is still persist, still continuous, okay? So Celsius has this, doesn't have true 0. This is why we call it interval. Same for Fahrenheit. But there's another temperature scale called Kelvin. Kelvin. That one has true 0 for Kelvin. So if you are working on a data set which has temperature in Kelvin, then that one doesn't suit for interval. Okay? Good? Not good. I'm trying to simplify as much as possible, but always you can ask. This is where I can see where you are lost. then I fit you, bring you here. But if you don't ask, I cannot do anything. Though I'm teaching you data mining, but I cannot do prediction. Most of the time I fail. When I look to someone's face, maybe he's thinking about, he understands, but maybe he's hungry, thinking about his coming lunch. So I ask him, do you have any question? Because I suspect, but he says no. Everything is clear. So ratio, the last type, is also quantitative, means numbers. Okay, numerical scale with equal interval, like interval, the previous one. In addition, it has true 0 point. Sorry, this one, ratio. Yeah, I think there's something wrong here. Later I rectify. Yeah, so for interval, you have example, temperature in Celsius and IQ score. IQ score also same. Why it's interval? This is interesting. Because when you say a person has IQ equals 0, it doesn't mean he's stupid. Or his intelligence, he doesn't have intelligence. Okay? And not to mention the IQ score starts from 40, it doesn't start from 0. Okay, but anyway, if you say 0, it doesn't mean the person has no intelligence at all. Okay? So again, this is a good example. For ratio, please later I rectify this. This is wrong. Not temperature in Celsius, temperature in Kelvin. And instead of IQ score, you can have weight, age, right? The weight also, when we mention something weight, 0. 0, complete 0. Also means this thing doesn't exist, right? At least even a piece of paper has maybe milligram of weight, right? But cannot say it has 0 milligram of weight, right? It's impossible. So weights, the height, let's say height of building, imagine say height of building has, if you say 0, that means the building doesn't exist because the 0 has true meaning, true value. Okay, so later these, please, I will rectify, then you can have the updated version for this PDF. These are wrong. Okay, so here like a summary for the level of measurements. Just now we mentioned we have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So here a summary. Nominal, categories. Ordinal, categories. You see, they share same thing. Yet ordinal has ordered variables. Interval and ratio, they are also sharing the same thing. They are numerical variables, ordered and proportionate interval between variables. That means equal interval. If you like to write down, this means they have equal interval. So both share the same thing, except ratio has, in addition, has absolute 0 concept. Just now the one we were enjoying our time discussing about. Okay, so ratio has absolute 0 concept. Okay, why we need to know these? Why we are wasting our time? Because different types of features may be applicable for different operations. For example, for nominal, you can apply distinctness, meaning you can only do comparison, equal or doesn't equal, like whether the gender is male or female, but you cannot apply greater or smaller or lesser, because just now we agreed they don't have nature of order, right? So we cannot apply this thing. Okay, so ordinal, yes, you can do distinctness, plus you can do also checking for order, greater or lesser. For interval, you can do distinctness, order, plus it has meaningful differences. So you can apply plus and subtraction. But also earlier in nominal, you cannot say gender, male plus male equals what? Stronger male, for example, doesn't make sense. Or female plus females equal stronger female, for example, doesn't make sense, okay? So again, this is why this operation cannot be applied on nominal, cannot be applied. Okay, while in interval, yes, interval can, because it's quantitative, numerical scale, then yes, we can do. Like, for example, we can increase the IQ score by 1, by 2, by 3, that's possible. Okay, ratio, you can do everything in addition to the division. Interval doesn't apply division and multiplication. Doesn't apply division and multiplication. Okay. Again, this is summary, and also another statistics. What statistics you can apply there? Just we mentioned about simple operation, arithmetic operation. But here we have mode, median, for example, mean. Nominal only can be used for mode. So this is good. Later, you need to, let's say, do replacement for your missing value. And you identified your feature as nominal. And you decided to do replacement. Would you go with mode, median, or mean? Yeah, only mode. Actually, if you think about it, again, doesn't make sense to go with median and mean. Always there's rational thinking behind each of these. Like, for example, if someone says, why mean cannot? It's obvious. How can I find the mean for a list of student gender? Let's say I have 5 males versus 5 females. What is the mean value? All right, cannot calculate. It's impossible. Can you say, okay, I quantify, I put male 0, because later we're going to talk about mapping values, like we did in practical session. We put male 0, female 1. Then if you do mean calculation, yes. I mean, you can do it, but actually, logically, it's wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Then you calculate mean, you get 0.5. So what does it mean? Is he male or female, right? So it doesn't make sense. Same for level of education. If you calculate the mean, 2 people has diploma, 2 people has degree. Calculate the mean. What is the mean? Somewhere between diploma and degree. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so always try to think. If you think you survive this course, actually you're gonna love this course. If you don't like to think, then sorry, you're gonna find it a bit difficult because there are many like tiny concepts everywhere you go. Okay, but if you try to rationalize them, you're gonna see actually the course is very easy. It's like math, but if you don't like math, actually this is not math. This is an IA and IB student. Also for me, by the way, I'm not saying like it's not good to be IA, no. For me, I don't like going into the mathematics to understand very details the algorithm. I like to know what this algorithm is about, how to use it, and why, at what situation this algorithm is applicable to use, or this algorithm to use, okay? So I'm this kind of person. I like that. So in this course, I'm not gonna dive into mathematics, but it's very good actually and interesting at the same time to understand the concepts, what we're doing, why is this we are doing, why we're doing that, okay? So if you rationalize, you're gonna enjoy this course because everything has something logical behind. There's a reason, okay? It's not just, okay, because we sat down and decided we do this, that's it. No such thing like this. There's some logical reason behind it. Okay, let's just we still have 2 minutes. Okay, let's decide. Here, the temperature. Okay, so you see Fahrenheit scale, Celsius. These two are interval. Kelvin has absolute 0. At 0, if you say 0 Kelvin, that means absolute 0. Nothing moves. Everything frozen. The molecules, everything. No movement at all. But if you say Fahrenheit and Celsius, no. And it's very clear. Go check, talk to people lives in the North Pole. Ask them, are you still able to move? Yes, of course, we are now talking to you. Then this is interval. If you talk to them, then they don't respond. They are frozen. Their tongue also frozen. Then this is ratio. Then tell them, oh, okay, thank you, cannot talk. Now I know. Hang up and say, okay, this is ratio. Okay, so the point is, if it's Kelvin, then everything is frozen. How about movie rating? If you have movie rating column, is it ordinal or interval? So I make it easy. I'm not asking nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, just ordinal or interval. Yes, sorry. Who said something? Interval. Ordinal. Okay. Who says ordinal? Raise up your hand. Okay, let's say they are about 10. How about, or 15, how about interval? Interval. Now we ask about ordinal or interval, I forgot. Okay, start over. Who says this is interval? Raise up your hand. Okay, ordinal. Okay, the majority are ordinal. Actually, this one, okay, the trick is to know, go back to this table. Here. If it's ordinal, sorry, if it's interval, then you can apply plus and minus, right? You can add, you can subtract. Okay. Then ask yourself the next question. What does it mean if I add up 2 movies of 2 stars? Can I produce, in this case, if I do summation, I have 1 movie 2 stars. Another movie, let's say 3 stars. If I add them up, will I come up with movie of 5 stars? No, right? Can? Imagine your favorite movie you watched this week, 2 movies, and you check their rating. The first movie got 2 stars out of 5. The second movie got 3 stars out of 5. Doesn't make sense if you say, okay, let me add them up together, these movies, then I will get a new movie with 5 stars. Doesn't make sense, right? So that means this is not interval. This is only where you can do comparison between movies. This movie has got higher ranking because got 3 stars. This movie has got lower ranking because only got 2 stars. But you cannot go to this stage. You can stay only in stage 1, stage 2, but you can't go to stage 3. Since you cannot go to stage 3, that means only you can go nominal, ordinal. You cannot approach interval. Because you need to think, what would happen if I subtract? Okay, take subtraction. What would happen if you subtract 2-star movie from 3-star movie? You will get 1-star movie. All right, doesn't make sense. So this is why. Always come to this one. You will see that life is easy. Okay, so you can negotiate. Why? I think time's up, and there's another class. Then we will continue our enjoyment tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Okay, so we talked about nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Right, so we were discussing, we have some examples, but before we continue, always remember, in order to identify the right type, data type for your variables is this one. So this actually, you can start from the top all the way down. If, let's say, the first one, okay, that means maybe it's only nominal. Then you can go down. Does it have the nature of order for such variable? If yes, that means now it has become, instead of nominal, ordinal, right? If you can do differences and meaningful, like plus and minus, subtraction, then that means it's interval. If you can do, if those are meaningful, having ratio like multiplication and division, that means it's ratio. So always start from the top right to the down. But actually those only are meant for categorical. So if you have categorical feature, most likely you will stuck either at the first one or second one. That means, in other words, the first one means nominal. The second one means ordinal. Okay. If you have a numerical scale, that means you skip those. You can go straight away to interval or ratio. Actually, they're not difficult, but again, like as you work in database, you need to know the right data type, correct? If you like, of course, to become professional. If you just like to skip and pass the exam, then it's your choice. But if you like to understand, that is a great choice for you. Okay, at least you know why you're doing this. And again, as I told you yesterday, all of these has some meaningful reason behind them. So if you understand the reason, actually you're gonna more than survive this course. Okay, you're gonna be enjoying this course. If you try to memorize, which I don't recommend to you, because this kind of course is more based on logical thinking. Okay, you need to reason why we are doing these steps. Okay, so yesterday we discussed about movie rating, and we said for this one is ordinal, right? Because if it's interval, then addition and subtraction must be meaningful. But we cannot sum 2 movies, the rating of 2 movies. We cannot subtract ratings of 2 movies, correct? It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. So it's ordinal. How about time? Time is a numeric, right? So actually we can immediately skip nominal and ordinal straight away, and then start to think about whether it's interval or ratio. In order to know whether it's ratio or interval, what is the difference between them? The true zero. Because if you check the definition, they are almost equal, except one part. That part is whether the scale or the variable you have supports true zero or not. Let's ask ourselves, does true zero mean anything in time? What does it mean if the time right now is 0? Doesn't mean no time now in the space of no time? No, right? It means it's 12 a.m. correct? So time doesn't have true zero. That means this is interval, right? Because ratio has to have the true zero. True zero must be meaningful. But in time, if we say the time is zero, doesn't mean that we are in the space of no time, correct? Like the direction of compass. It doesn't mean if we have zero, that means no direction. Now we are lost, okay, in this universe. How about, yeah, so this is compass, we already discussed. So this one is interval. How about temperature? We also discussed yesterday. Celsius and Fahrenheit, they don't preserve the term or the idea of true zero, right? So they are ratio. Okay, ratio, nobody like follows up. Ratio or interval? Interval, yeah, good. So Celsius and Fahrenheit are interval data type. But again, why we need to know this? That means if you wish to apply data transformation or maybe data extraction to come up with a new variable, okay, like having, let's say, multiplication and division, where you apply the transformation, where you have arithmetic operation of multiplication and division, then it's meaningless. You cannot do this. Kelvin is ratio because Kelvin has the term or the idea of true zero. When temperature Kelvin and Kelvin scale is zero, means molecule stops moving, nothing. That means everything is frozen. But when we see or when we say that Celsius and Fahrenheit scale is zero, the temperature is zero, doesn't mean the life stops, right? We're still alive. We can survive. Okay, how about the height? Or let's see what it says here. So considering measuring the height above average, if Bill's height is 3 inches above average and Pop's height is 6 inches above average, then would we say that Pop is twice as tall as Bill? Actually, once we see like twice, meaning we are doing multiplication, right? Multiply by 2. So in other words, can we say such thing? Actually, it's logical. We always say, right? So meaning in this situation, analogous to that of temperature, yes, for Kelvin. For Kelvin, yes, we can say such thing for Kelvin because Kelvin has the true zero. So same idea here, we're talking about height. So height has true zero. So we can say, for example, Pop is twice as tall as Bill. That means Bob height or tall equal the tall of Bill multiplied by 2, correct? So multiplication means you can do ratio. If multiplication is meaningless, which is not the case here, then we should say that this is interval. But anyway, for height, age, right, all of these scales or measures, they preserve true zero. So we can say these are ratio. Okay. Okay. So for now, later when we have nominal, right? Okay, so now we need to understand how we're going to do pre-processing. Let's say we have identified a few variables like the case here. Let's say I have house category. I have house category in my data set. Okay, the categories, I don't know if you can see, it's in gray color. Simply here referring to the category of the house, the distance of the house. Okay, whether it's on the island or maybe far away, 1 hour from the ocean. Okay, this is just sample. So here inland, island, near bay, near ocean, and so on. So imagine you have one column inside your data set. Let's say you have gathered data about houses, and then this one showing you the category. So you have categorized, or the houses have been categorized based on their location, whether they are on the island, inland, how far they are from the ocean, and so on. Okay, now in machine learning, you cannot do modeling or training on text data. You cannot simply tell the algorithm, okay, take this piece of data, this column, and work on it. Algorithms prefer numbers to work on. So what we need to do, we need to do what's called mapping, meaning I need to assign a numeric value to these categorical variables, to those nominal and ordinal, because nominal and ordinal are categorical. You can refer back to the slides. It says it's categorical. So that means they have text, string inside them. But again, we cannot pass those into the algorithm for training purposes. You have to do mapping. Okay? Now the question is, if we do mapping, we're going to assign values, right? But does it impact or does it have any difference if we have nominal or ordinal in the way of mapping treatment? The answer is yes. So you need to be careful. This is why we are studying the type of variable. Because when we come to the mapping process, you need to take special care for nominal, special care for ordinal. Though they are same, categorical, string, but in the way of treatment or how you process them, pre-process them, it's different. Okay, so let's assume it's nominal. Okay, nominal means like gender, it has categorical and it doesn't preserve the nature of order. Let's assume this variable is nominal, where we don't give ranking or nature of order, whether the house is far away 1 hour or less than 1 hour, or whether it's on land or island or nearby. We don't care. Okay, there is no ranking. I'm not going to assign ranking saying, okay, the house, if located in the island, is going to be 1. This is highest ranking. Then maybe second ranking comes by nearby, third ranking inland. Okay, let's assume there is no ranking. Of course, it depends on the nature of the problem you are working on. So this is why you need to have data understanding. Let's say you are gathering data about houses. Then you need to ask, does it make any difference? I mean, is there ranking if the house near to the ocean, or maybe it's inland, or it's on island? If they say no, there is no ranking, then immediately this is nominal. If they tell you no, there's ranking for the category of the house, whether it's near island, sorry, it's on island or inland or near ocean, then you need to take that into account. Now, let's assume that this variable has no ranking. We asked the expert, okay, and they told us, for example, for house prediction, it doesn't matter the ranking of the house. Here, there is no ranking. Okay, just for the sake of argument, maybe you still say, oh, maybe on island should be more expensive. It doesn't matter. Just for the sake of argument, let's say there is no ranking. Then now this slide showing you how to treat the variable using Python. So we have one class called oneHotEncoder. Okay, so this class is gonna do transformation for the variable. In other words, actually it's gonna do mapping. It's gonna assign values to this one. If we consider this is nominal, okay, that means we need to ensure while we are mapping values into this categorical variable, we don't show ranking in there. How we can show ranking? Now, if I got, let's say, student, I brought student here based on their grade. I assign, let's say, for grade A, value 1, grade B, value 2, grade 3, value 3. Okay, grade C, value 3. Now, in this case, in a numeric scale, right, a numeric scale, maybe 1, or let's say if I put them in opposite for grade A, 3, grade B, 2, to make it more logical for you, grade C, 1. If I put it like this, mapping number, so far so good. But the point is, if I treat grades as nominal, there should be no nature of order. But actually assigning values like this gives or maintain the nature of order. So we know that 3 is higher than 2 and 2 is higher than 1, right? Right or not? In mathematics, I mean arithmetic, just having values, numbers, correct? So in order to remove the nature of order completely, okay, considering grades have no ranking, but of course they do in real life. Just I'm saying, imagine they don't have. We are only allowed to map those categorical variable by using either 0 or 1. We cannot use 2, value 2. We cannot use value 3. We cannot use value 4. Either 0 or 1. The point is 0 mean doesn't exist. 1 means existence. Okay, that's it. So we cannot go with ranking. Once you have value 2, value 3, that means we are unintentionally telling the algorithm when we pass this feature that there is nature of order, because it makes sense. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is bigger than 3. 3 is bigger than 2. 2 is bigger than 1. Okay. So in order to avoid that, this class will help us to assign only values 1 and 0. How this has been done, later we will discuss further. Okay, but at least now it's good to understand nominal variable should be treated with a class in Python called one-hot encoder. Okay, and only the values after pre-processing is going to look like only the mapping value is going to be either 0 or 1. That's it. Good so far? Okay, so nominal, remember, no nature of order, no ranking. How about if we ask and they told us, no. Let's say the house categorical has ranking. If the house is located on the island, maybe has higher value. If it's located in land, maybe second higher value, and so on and so forth. That means ranking is important. Then in this case, we don't use one-hot encoder. We need to use another class in Python called Ordinal encoder. Okay, so Ordinal, because the variable is ordinal, preserve the nature of order. In this case, Ordinal encoder, again, we're going to call fit and transform. This is just for mapping. It's going to do mapping on behalf of us. And we pass the variable. It's going to assign values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Depends on how many categories you have. Right? So this one will preserve the nature of order. So we know after all the value 7, for example, if we have 8 categories and we assign or map values from 0 to 7, then we know that 7 is higher than 6. And 6 is higher than 5, and so on. Okay? Clear? But actually, this piece of code is incomplete because how Ordinal encoder will figure out the right ranking, whether island should be first, or maybe inland first, or far away, one hour from the ocean first. So actually, there is one argument missing here. But if you refer to scikit-learn, this is the famous package that we're going to use most of the time. So if you search on the web for Ordinal encoder, there is a second argument you need to provide. You need to provide categories. So by default, auto, still okay. That means Python is going to just assign a ranking by itself. But whether the ranking is correct or not correct, it doesn't matter in this case, because you didn't assign any value or you put auto. Unless you know the specific ranking, then you need to specify it by yourself. So here, let's see if there's an example. I think that's all for these data types: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay. Of course, for interval and ratio, you don't need to do mapping because they already numeric scale, right? They already numeric scale, so you don't need to do that. But just one point: after they are given values or mapped into number, that doesn't make them numeric variables. They are still categorical, but only we have assigned numbers to them. Okay? That's it. Like you are given ID. So ID 0 means to whether, let's say it's the value male, if we're talking about gender. ID 1, for example, means female, or vice versa. Because in nominal, it doesn't matter the nature. There's no nature of order. Who comes first, who comes next, it doesn't matter. But ordinal, it does. So that's why always you need to understand. Any question? Any question? Now, another thing, this is also another type to understand about just the data type. This is actually more only on the numeric scale. Whether the values that are being held, whether it's discrete or continuous. Discrete means integer value. Okay, so and usually it has finite number. When we have discrete values, it's gonna have finite number. Okay, integer value. All categorical variables are discrete because after all the categorical variables we are going to assign values. So when we assign values, we assign integer values, right? Like in inland 0, island 1. 1 hour ago, far away from the ocean 2, and so on and so forth. You don't assign 1.5, 2.5, and so on. So it has to be discrete value. Okay, for continuous variable, okay, it's infinite number and it's a float decimal. Let's say you are asking about the age, where you have decimal point, or the height. It can be treated as interval, like such as temperature in Celsius. Maybe the temperature is 36.5. By the way, if you don't have it, because I see many people taking photos, I already fixed that. So now inside MS Team, you have the updated slide. this one you should have there as well. But that's good. Some people, that means following up, checking the slides. But I already fixed it, so you should have it already there. Okay, so as an example, you have weight and height. These are ratio. Okay, you may have decimal point. If you like to check, but I didn't provide map. This is just examples showing you the data type. Okay, so we have 3 types. These are the main variables. So this is nominal. If we're talking, let's say we have a list of fruits. Okay, so logically they have no nature of order. This is a good example for nominal. Okay, you can do mapping by yourself, by the way. Okay, so here nominal variable, nominal. So for ordinal, so we may have, like, let's say the level of something, maybe level of measurement. We have 3 categories: low, medium, and high. Okay, so these are ordinal. In this case, also you can assign values to them. So you can do call map. If you remember last practical session, we used function call map. So if you don't want to use ordinal encoder, you can use map function and then assign the proper value for each category. So like in this case here, we can say, okay, for value low, it's going to be assigned with value 1. For value medium, it's going to be assigned value of 2. For high, it's going to be assigned value of 3. Okay, for interval, just we have set of numbers. Of course, here it's not so meaningful because we don't know what this variable is, but let's assume that this is temperature in Celsius. Okay, so this is an example for interval. Ratio, also again, it's a numeric scale, okay, but let's say this is Kelvin, temperature in Kelvin. Discrete, just as we said, it's integer value. For continuous, where you have, decimal point. Okay, so not much, but I think always when you see the practical part, you feel more convenient. Okay, so what we have in mind is kind of match the reality. Okay. Now let's just go. There are different types also of data set, depends on the problem you are working on. Okay, nothing much here to cover, but just to have an idea what types of data set you may work on. But again, depends on the problem or FYP. If you are working on FYP project, then depends on the nature of the problem that you are working on. Okay, so if you have records, okay, probably this is your target variable, has been colored in red. So that means you are building a data mining model able to, let's say, classify whether such person is going to be cheating or not cheating, mean credit worthy, let's say, is going to return the money to the bank or not, okay, based on these values. Okay, marital status, taxable income, maybe data matrix. Okay, you have projection of X load, of Y load, distance. All of them actually have records, some data, but just maybe the name can be different. Okay, it's not actually a big deal about it. Here, let's say how documents, if you like to build a model to do, let's say, to classify documents, then one way, if you are doing machine learning, maybe you can find those keywords inside each document and then quantify how many times the word, for example, team has appeared in document 1, and how many times the word coach has appeared in document 1, and so on. Okay, so the data set has to be prepared like this. You cannot, again, take text from your, let's say you collected data from Wikipedia. You took all the text and then just pass it to your algorithm, right? We need to provide numbers. So one way to represent cases for document data, we can find those keywords inside the documents and then quantify having the frequency, how many times each one of these words has appeared in each document. Okay, so in this case, for example, coach has appeared 0 times, while 7 times in document 2, 1 time in document 3. If we're talking about transaction data set, like for example, if you go to any shopping mall or any grocery or outlet, then you may ask about their transaction data. Their transaction data should look like this. But of course, again, this data is not ready to be processed. you need to prepare the right format for the data set. Okay, but at least the data looks like this. When we talk about association analysis, we're going to cover this more, how the data should look like. Actually, simply like the case for document case. On the top here, you should have all the items, the grocery sales. Okay, so maybe we have bread, egg, and so on and so forth. Then either 0 or 1. So if I put 0 here, means person 1 here is going to be the identity for the transaction 1. If I put 1, that means transaction 1 has that particular item. If I put 0, that means that transaction didn't include that item. Anyway, when we come to association analysis, we're going to talk about. Or you may have graph data with, let's say, you can build, you can trace the links, how you are going from one document or one URL to second URL. So here we have hyperlink, we're going to go there and so on. Okay, so this again depends on the type of nature, the nature of the problem you're working on. If it's ordered data, that means we're gonna not only have the transaction or the customer ID, but also we're gonna take the time as well. We need to consider the time. Why? Because this is ordered data or sequential data. So we need to know what transaction has happened by let's say customer 1, what items he has purchased first. So here we can see C1 customer at T1, he has purchased A and B. Let's say after a few days, he went back to the grocery and made a second transaction. So he purchased C and D. Okay, why this can be useful? We may predict, let's say on transaction 3, what he's gonna purchase. Maybe we like to predict. He has his historic purchases. At T1, he purchased these items, T2, these items. Then on T3, we may predict what he's gonna do purchases for. Okay, so we need to know the time. The point is, if we are working on sequential analysis, so we need the time as well. It's not enough only to have customer ID and the items purchased. Okay, then you can like show them in this case. So C1, if you notice 3 times, C1 at T1 has purchased A and B. C1 at T2, he has purchased C and D. And then C1 at T5 has purchased A and F. So here we show that there's some time. That means this is single transaction, this is another single transaction, and so on. This is if we are working on genomic sequence data, then also again, it has to be ordered. We have a sequence for these genomics. Or spatio-temporal data, then you need to capture, let's say you are taking the temperature or humidity along the year, okay? Then also you need to take the time into account, okay? The temperature at which, let's say, season or at which month was like this and so on. So you need to have also ordered or sequential data in this case.